Hello everyone, AmyR here with Prairie Paper and Ink, and I finally got a chance to use the Handwritten Floral Greetings stamp set from Simon Says Stamp. This was part of their July card kit, and the card kit did completely sell out. However, the stamp set's still available, so I will link to the stamp set as well as many of the supplies as possible. I used several different things from the kit. So I started with the stamp set, and I had coated the watercolor paper, which came in the kit, but I'll link to something similar. I coated the watercolor paper with my anti-static powder tool, and then I'm stamping the images I want to use with Simon Says Stamp clear embossing ink, which I am really loving this embossing ink. I showed it in a recent haul, and I've used it a few times now, and I really like it. So I was stamping the images and then coating them with white embossing powder and not heat setting it yet. I just wanted to be able to see where I'd stamped the images. And I ended up stamping the entire piece with 3 of the flowers, and then I stamped the leaves twice each time. And then once I had them all stamped and coated with I'm using detail white embossing powder, and then I'm melting all of that with my heat tool. So once all the powder is melted, I warped the cardstock when I did it, but I'm not worried about that because I'm going to watercolor it and then I'm going to be cutting them out anyway. So I pulled out my Sakura Koi watercolors for this and decided to do a pink and yellow sort of a theme. I originally wasn't even planning on using the pattern paper from the kit. They're more, the colors in that kit tend towards more like blue and a little bit of pink and a little bit of kind of a mustardy yellow color. And I decided to do pink and yellow, and some of them kind of mix a little bit and create orange. And in the end, it actually goes with the paper. So I'll get to that in a minute. But all I'm doing is I'm just using the water brush that also came in the kit. This is also sold separately though. And I'm just mixing up. I mixed up 2 of the pinks of the watercolors and then 2 of the yellows. And while everything is still wet, like I applied some yellow and then I applied some pink, and some of it mixes and makes, corals and oranges and all that. And then I was happy with how that was turning out. So for the next one, I just applied a bunch of yellow and then applied a bunch of pink and then kind of went back and forth and let it mix. Not being super particular about it, because that's one thing I love about florals is it's pretty easy for the most part to color them. You don't have to be super fancy. Sometimes it's fun to do every petal separately and really let the colors, do their thing. But with this, you guys know me, I just slap the color on. And I love with, doing it with white embossing. It makes the embossing pop, and, it gives it that extra something, and it just all ends up looking nicer in the end than with very little effort. So I did the same thing with the greens. I mixed up a lighter green with some yellow and then a bit of a darker green and did the same thing, just kind of applied the color. And then once everything was dry, I decided to cut these out right along the edge of the emboss line. Usually I'll cut them out with either dies if there are, but there's not a matching die set for this, or I'll cut out with a border. But this time I just decided to cut right along the edge. And it didn't take very long. I usually keep my scissors facing roughly one direction, and it's the paper I move the most. And I like to cut out a smaller portion of the paper rather than holding the whole large piece. I find it's easier to kind of get around and cut, and just a little bit of patience. And it's just kind of, for me, it's kind of a mindless sort of activity. So I'll just sit and cut something out, and it usually doesn't take too long. So I trimmed out all those images. And then I went on and grabbed a piece of black cardstock that I also treated with the anti-static powder. And then I'm stamping sentiments from the set. And that's another, I love this stamp set. It's so pretty. And I love the sentiments, the font. I assume it's Christina Werner's handwriting. Love her handwriting. Seriously, if I could write like that. Oh, anyway, love these fonts. So I stamped and embossed them with the same white embossing powder. So I did that once, and then I trimmed it with my paper trimmer, and then I stamped the second sentiment and coated that with the detail white embossing powder as well, and then heated that with my heat tool, and then trimmed that down into a strip with my paper trimmer. I originally was only planning on making just a card with this, but then as I got creating, I was like, I've got 3 flowers done. Why don't I make 2 cards? And I was like, no, how about I make a card and a tag? So that's what I ended up deciding on doing. So I grabbed the large tags die set from Simon Says and die cut one of the tags from some heavyweight white cardstock, and then realized that yellow pattern paper that had come in the kit, and I forget the name of it, but I'll try and link to just the pattern paper as well, because like I said, the kit is completely sold out. So that yellow pattern paper though worked well. So I trimmed off a small piece of that to add to my tag, and then created a banner edge to this sentiment here. Just with my scissors, you just cut a notch in the middle, and then you meet in the middle from each end, and it just creates a really easy notch. And then I adhere that to my tag with some foam tape so it's popped up. and then adhered one of the leaves with some Tombow Mono Multi, and then popped one of the flowers up with some more foam tape, and then used a little bit more of the Mono Multi to adhere the other leaf just slightly under the flower there. I just tucked it in next to the foam tape. And then I pulled out the white Blizzard Nouveau glitter drops. I showed these again in a very recent haul video. So this is my first time like actually applying them to a card. I could have done this separately, but I don't have the time right now to plan ahead. So I could have, you know, created these on a craft sheet and then popped them off and adhered them in place, whatever. I was like, yeah, no, don't have time for that. So I apply them directly to the tag, and I find doing a little bit of a swirling motion helps, like, takes a little practice to get them like in a perfect circle, in my opinion. So I did a little bit of a swirling motion, and then I set that aside to dry. And then I grabbed the new basic rectangles dies from Simon Says, and I'm just using my wire snips. I've shown these in other videos, and if I remember, I will try to link to these because I've been having a lot of questions about them. But I just use my wire snips to snip apart the dies because I wanted the second largest die, and then I grabbed more pattern paper from the pack that I thought would work nice with this. So figured out how I wanted it oriented, and then I ran that through my die cut machine. And then I did the same thing to this sentiment as well after I cut some more of that same pattern paper just to have, you know, the continuity going. So I really liked that yellow pattern paper. So applied some ATG adhesive to that, adhered that to my little rectangle background of pattern paper, and then I just flipped it over and trimmed it down with my scissors. And then I used the scissors again on the sentiment to create another banner edge to that one. So yeah, you just cut a notch in the center, and then you meet the tip of the notch from each corner with the scissors. And once you do it a few times, super quick and easy. So I fiddled with the layout a little bit because I didn't want to cover up too much of the pattern paper, but I wanted to include both flowers. So I kind of figured a layout that I was happy with. And I decided to put the second flower kind of underneath a little bit, like peeking out from under the sentiment. So I adhered that flat with my Tombow Mono Multi, and then I did the same thing with this sentiment. I applied a strip of foam tape and had the sentiment kind of hanging off the rectangle a little bit there. So got that laid out how I wanted, and then did the exact same thing again. Just flipped that over and used the edge of the paper as my guide to trim off with my scissors. And then adhered that one leaf with some Tombow Mono Multi, and then adhered the second flower with some foam tape and a little bit of ATG to make sure it was secure. And then figured out where I wanted to place that little larger leaf, and then added some more Tombow Mono Multi to that. So once I've got all that, I'm going to go grab my card base, which is some heavyweight white cardstock cut to 4 1/4 by 11 inches. I'm just going to use my paper cutter to line it up at 5 1/2 inches so I can score that with my Teflon bone folder. And then I always fold the card and then use the bone folder again to really press the crease really well, because that helps it to open and close properly and not create like a funny little wrinkle or anything like that. So once I did that, I trimmed down a little bit more of that same yellow pattern paper and decided to just stamp the 2 leaves from the set. And I just used Simon Says Intense Black ink for that, and decided not to stamp any other sentiments or anything else, just kept it kind of simple. So I just stamped the 2 leaves, and then I'm going to adhere the pattern paper with my ATG. And then I can adhere the panel I created to the front of the card. So I used some foam tape for that, so it's popped up a little bit. And then once I've got that adhered in place, I'm going to finish it off with some more of those white Blizzard Nouveau glitter drops. And same thing, just sort of apply them randomly, similar to how I would apply little enamel dots. So far, I'm enjoying these. And they have had a chance to dry down. I've, you know, done pictures with them and everything, and they look great to me. I'm happy with these. So I'll have to be experimenting with them some more. But applied those and then set this all aside to dry, and then added just some thick black thread to the tag to finish it off. And that's all there was to it. So I will have links to everything in the description box below the video, as well as a link to my blog post where I post the pictures, as well as picture links to all the supplies used. So if you're interested in any of that, check out the description box below the video. And thank you all so much for watching and subscribing, thumbs upping, and commenting on my videos. I read all the comments and respond to as many as I possibly can, and I really, really appreciate it. So thank you guys so much, and I will see you all very soon in the next video. Bye.